Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another episode of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and checking today's video out. I think you're going to be happy you did after the end of it. We're going to have a refresher course on fishing lizards because we got lizard season coming up, and I got a bunch of good tips and advice on a lot of different ways to fish them we're going to go over in today's video. Also, guys, before we get started, just wanted to give you a quick reminder about our February sale on my Solar Bat Series RB2 and RB3 series sunglasses. If you guys would like to get a pair, I'll put the link in the description. You can get them at 30% off during the month of February. I think you guys will really like these things and get y'all ready for fishing season. So much appreciated with that. Okay guys, we have done lizard videos in the past, but I think it's time to give a refresher course on it because there's a lot of different ways that you can fish a lizard, and they work really good in specific situations. And lizards are going to work all year long, but for whatever reason, it seems like they work really good in the period of sort of like the late pre-spawn, during the spawn, and then a little bit after the spawn, the early post-spawn. So I'm going to go through here and show you my favorite colors, setups, and sort of give you some advice on, you know, how to fish them and where you want to fish them at. And also, guys, I will put my, I'll link all the lizards in the description here. If you guys would like to pick up some of these Zoom lizards, you can use my Tackle Warehouse link in the description and get you some lizards and hooks and weights and everything. It's much appreciated too. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit. Let's go about size first. We're going to get into size and color. There's two basic sizes that I use on the Zoom lizards. I use the 8-inch size here, and I use the 5-inch model here, both at different various times. Now, the times that I use the smaller one, the 5-inch model, is really good on a Carolina rig. You can't beat a Carolina rig lizard, and I prefer the smaller size, like the 5-inch size. Seems like I get a lot of good bites on it, a lot of different size of fish, a lot of numbers of fish. And then I also will Texas rig it at times if I'm fishing like extremely shallow water. Fishing's a little bit tougher, and you know, sometimes the fish just want a little bit smaller bait if they're a little bit pressured more, maybe after a front rolls through. Seems like the little smaller lizard works a little bit better. But primarily, guys, my favorite is the Zoom 8-inch lizard. Now this is an 8-inch lizard, but it's not like a real big bait, but there's something about the 8-inch lizard that's just really appealing to the fish, the size of it. So as far as during the course of a year, I probably use the 8-inch size about 75% of the time, and then I'll use the little 5-inch one, you know, the other 25% of the time. But I do prefer the 8-inch lizard because it'll get you a big bite, and it'll still get you a lot of numbers. Now, I pretty much just use 3 different colors based upon the water clarity. My favorite, and you can't beat it, is just the straight green pumpkin. Green pumpkin, and I usually dip the tail chartreuse in it, or maybe some orange, but a green pumpkin is going to be your most versatile color. A lot of it depends, again, on the water clarity and the sunlight conditions, but anytime that I'm using a green pumpkin, I usually am looking for water visibility of like over 2 foot clarity, 2.5 feet or greater. And most of the time, about the cleanest that I'll fish a lizard in is like down to, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot clarity. So sort of that 2.5 to 4 foot clarity zone is really good for the green pumpkin lizard. Now, if it's a little bit brighter out, say it's sunny out and I'm in a little bit cleaner water, like that 4 foot of visibility, a lot of times I won't dip the tail, I'll just leave it green all the way around like that. But if I'm in those same situations, say it's a little bit darker, it's rainy out or something, I may put a little bit of chartreuse or orange on it. Or if it's on the lower end of the water visibility column, say if it's closer to like 2.5 foot visibility, even if it's sunny, I'll still put a little chartreuse. But day in and day out, guys, you cannot beat the green pumpkin. Now, the other 2 I use is a black one. The black one is actually one of my favorites to use in dirty water. It's like if you got water visibility of like under 15 inches, I usually always go to a black lizard. Black is a really good color. It silhouettes well. Black is extremely good during the pre-spawn. So if you've got water temperatures sort of in that 55 to 60 degree range, sort of right before those fish start spawning, and you've got some off-colored water where the water visibility is less than 1.5 feet or so, guys, you can't go wrong with black. It catches a lot of good fish in that off-colored water. And the other color that I use is a June bug color. I really like the June bug in sort of a wide range of conditions. It works really good if you have a lake that has some tannic acid color water. Usually it has grass in it, like, so all your Texas lake, your Florida lakes, your TVA lakes with grass, the June bug is going to be a really good color. And also June bug is sort of that in-between color of black and green pumpkin. So I can use it, say, in a little bit off colored water, but also a little bit cleaner water. So the June bug to me is a color that works good sort of in that window of like 2 to 3 foot of visibility, which a lot of lakes have 2 to 3 feet of visibility. It's very common with it. And normally I like to use the June bug on those little bit darker days, like more of a cloudy day or 75% overcast, something like that, because it's a subtle color, but it still is dark enough to silhouette. You can see it next to the black, there is a significant difference there. But the June bug, the black, and the green pumpkin are my 3 favorites. Now, as far as how I set these up, how I rig them, the sinker size that I use is dependent upon the cover size that I use. My favorite sinker size when I'm flipping and pitching shallow cover with it is like a 3/16 ounce. I found that using a 3/16 ounce is really good overall if you're flipping and pitching some sparser cover, like lay down logs around docks, stumps, something like that. Sometimes if the water is like really shallow and really stained, I'll go to an 1/8 ounce sinker to get a nice little slow fall on it. And about the only time that I go heavier than a 3/16, sometimes I'll go as high as a 5/16 if I'm flipping and pitching like flooded bushes and flooded cover and into trees where the lizard is actually going over a limb. And of course the wind has a factor too. Sometimes if it's really windy, you have to upsize the weight. But for the most part, during the course of a year, I probably say that I use 3/16 50% of the time, an 1/8 ounce 25% of the time, and a 5/16 25% of the time. Now rigging it goes, guys, I like a straight shank hook. I like this Gamakatsu G-Finesse heavy cover worm hook on a straight shank. And I'm gonna show you how I like to rig it here because it's a little bit different than the way I rig a worm. Again, I don't like the EWG hook on it. I prefer the straight shank. I just think you get a lot better hookups on it. But I'll come through like 1/4 of an inch on the head there. And in a lot of soft plastics that I use, I skin hook them on the side like that. Just barely get it like that. But I don't really like to do that on a lizard because if you skin hook it on the side, the lizard doesn't fall straight because it's got a flat belly on it like that. So I do like to come straight through the middle of the lizard. This is the only time I do that on a straight shank. I'll come straight through, bring the hook out all the way, and then just tuck it back in the plastic to make it weedless, like that. And that way, it's still weedless, but you're still gonna get good hook penetration because it's came all the way through. And then that's the setup there. And most of the time I'll peg it with like just a toothpick or something like that. If I'm fishing, if I'm casting it like into grass beds or around clean stumps, sometimes I'll leave it non-pegged, but that's usually the setup that I like to use for it with that. And most of the time I'm pitching it on 17 to 25 pound test line. But here's the situations where a lizard really works good as far as the exact scenario and conditions. If again, your temperature window zone is like 55 to 70 degrees in the springtime of the year for the most part. And shallow cover is gonna be the best cover for this. Now it has to do something, I guess, with the profile of the bait and the legs and the way it falls. But when I'm talking about flipping and pitching shallow cover, you got a lot of different lures at work. You got your jigs, your creature baits, your plastic worms, tubes, soft plastic stick baits, and they all work in different situations. But guys, I have never found another lure that works as good if those fish are really shallow. Like say, for example, you got those fish that are in less than 3 foot of water, 1 to 3 foot of water. A lizard in really shallow water just catches them. It gets an aggressive bite. It gets more bites than about any soft plastic that you can use out there, especially if you can really pick those pieces of cover real slow with like an 1/8 ounce sinker. Also, guys, if you have a lake that has lily pads in it, and in the springtime, a lot of them aren't bloomed out, they still have the lily pad stems. Flipping a lizard in lily pad stems or flipping a lizard in cattails and reeds is a really good way to catch them with that light 1/8 ounce sinker, making those real slow, methodical pitches in there with that. I really don't do much Carolina rigging anymore, but Carolina rigging is really effective, like we talked about a little bit earlier in the video too. Now, one other thing I will tell you guys that's really good with the lizard is sometimes, like right around those fish when they're starting to spawn, you can take the lizard with no weight at all. Just Texas rig it just like that with no weight and do the same thing. just cast it and pitch it and flip it around that super shallow cover. And a lot of times I'll cast it and pitch it out there, and I'll sort of slowly reel it back and twitch it and try to keep it just maybe an inch or two under the surface and like swim it by that shallow cover, and they'll come out and hit it just like a swim jig. But anyway, guys, coming up on it, it's going to be another month or so. It's going to be lizard season, but just pick up a few bags there on the Tackle Warehouse link I put in the description here. And if you've never tried it, it is an old school bait that still catches them as good now as it ever is catching them. I caught tons of good fish on lizards and still do every year. So hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.